Coach, when you look back at the Kansas State game, but anything stand out? Adjustments you need to make?
No, I thought there's always adjustments you got to make week to week with the opponent that you play. I thought we did a good job against the run, with the exception of the last run that got out of there. Third down, I thought we did some good things there, getting off the field. We just got to do a better job with the pass game, especially with just the deep balls. We got to do a better job defending those as a unit, putting those guys in better positions, maybe. And then, when it's their time, they got to shine and they got to guard. And, then we got to continue to coach it in a better fashion to get those guys perform and get those balls down or intercept them or make them not be completions in the explosive plays.
Yeah, looking forward to this week. What do you do with Flores? Do you have to go back and look at previous film to figure out what they might do?
Yeah, you got to dig deep in the archives. You got to do a little bit of everything, in games like this, just because it's kind of feels like one of those first game type of things, just because every week they're reinventing themselves, and they're doing a good job with that. They're being really creative. They're doing a lot of creative things, but it's different every game. And so you got to do a good job just having a base game plan and then be able to adjust from there from what you see, from these guys. They're really creative on what they're doing on offense. Like I said, it's different every game, different personnel, different things they're doing. Some games are in 12, some games are in 11, some games 18 is the quarterback, some games is 12, some games is 6. So it's a lot of different things that we just have to be ready for and adjust on the fly.
How has calling things on the field gone for you so far this season? And when you have a couple of lackluster performances, do you think about moving back up to the box?
No, I don't think where you call it really makes a difference. You just gotta execute better in what we're doing there.
How much weight can you put on any of Oklahoma State's film from before they gave play calling to the quarterback's coach?
A little bit, because they're still doing some of the things that before they switch play callers. So there's some things there. Within the season, there's not a whole bunch of things that you can change through the season, but there's just different thoughts and different philosophies of calling plays. And you can definitely see that shining through as you continue to look at their games.
You guys asked defensive ends to do a lot in the defense. Dean Miller made a play in coverage against K-State. What can you do to maybe get more sort of oomph in the pass rush from those guys at this point?
We bring them quite a bit. If you look, they rush probably more than they drop during the game. So, that's just something they do. And, Dean got the athletic ability to play in space. He necessarily doesn't have the weight that you want to be able to play down there and defend the run all the time. So it's good to kind of put him in space and help him there. Leroy's also a big athletic guy who leads us in sacks. So I guess he's getting a lot of oomph out there too. So I think we're getting it from a lot of different people, and that's what we want from the defense. So people can't key it just on one guy.
Lance has said it, you've said it, execution, always a thing, right? When you're looking for why things didn't get executed, what are you looking for? And then are you seeing anything pattern-wise that's maybe keeping that from being executed on a consistent basis?
Yeah, the first thing you always want to look at is just how it's being taught and what we're emphasizing.
Sure.
And I think that's the biggest thing, because it starts with coaching. And, we got to do a better job with that. If something's not getting done, that we want to get done. And then after that is continue just to boil things down and, just kind of put people in the right position, ask the right questions to get them to understand why it's not getting done the way you might like to get it done. And then sometimes it's just a matter, too, of when you're there, man, you got to make that play. And some things, that's why they call them 50-50 balls sometimes, or, 50-50 tackles. You got to be on the good side of that to be able to make those, too. So it's a combination of everything. We just got to get better at the things we can control, which is the coaching, the preparation, the planning, and then getting out there on the practice field and doing the right things that we emphasize and get stuff done that we know we need to get done to win games.
It looked like Mason was at safety most of the game in his return. I guess, do you foresee him staying there or moving back down to nickel?
It just kind of depends on what we need. J. Todd's doing a good job there at nickel for us there, because we're still a little, guys are playing, but they're a little banged up at safety, so we just kind of need that depth and guys to play there. And plus Mason's speed, able to cover ground, we thought it'd be a good thing for him to be able to play back on the back end and kind of just working back into it like he was, because he's been out multiple weeks. So we thought that'd be the easiest spot for him to work himself back into playing time where we needed him.
You've mentioned Jalen as someone who's had a good year. Who else maybe is in that group of guys you've really relied upon? And then are there any players that you're like, you want them to maybe elevate to that group?
I think quite a few guys. Just kind of depends on game to game. Different guys have stepped up. Blake Harrell, is doing a great job for us up front. Kenny Caldwell is doing a heck of a job, up front. I think he had a tackle for loss. In the game, doing a good job. We mentioned Leroy, you mentioned Fink. I think a lot of guys, you know, in spots are doing a really good job. You know, we just got to consistently just put it together and just have a good one there. Even on the back end, I think those guys have had a good year. It just was one of those games where they probably didn't play up to their potential. And we got to get them to bounce back this week and all focus on Oklahoma State getting this victory for these seniors.
I know every opponent is different, but how challenging is it when like the things that you're struggling with on defense seem to be different from one game to the next?
I think that's just the way football is. You know, I think it's that way that sometimes, you know, if you're not fitting the run great, the next game you might fit it great like we did this game, and then some balls go over your head. You know, then we had games where nothing really affected us. So it just kind of, you got to kind of adjust on the fly and kind of get it done, and then you got to make sure you're trying to do a good job week to week of making sure you don't have those, you know, mishaps and different things like that. And that's our job to continue to get that done. And this week, that's our plan to kind of get those done and get on the W side.
How much of an emphasis was the gap discipline stuff heading into the last game? And I guess how well do you think that's sticking with guys now?
It did a good job. Like I said, I thought we did a good job against the run, with the exception of that last run that got out. You know, I thought we did a really good job there. You know, I think the quarterback really ran on us a whole bunch, so we did a good job with that. So it did a good job. You know, we achieved what we emphasized there, and like I said, we just got to do a better job contesting on some of those passes with our young DBs.
What kind of year has Lyric Rawls had for you guys?
Having a good year. He's a really good leader. Glad we got him. I know this is a special game coming up for him in particular, so I look forward to seeing how he performs this year. But he's doing a good job. Really proud of him.
You guys got the field goal to crawl a little closer and then first play over the top. Austin, confident kid, bounce back type of mentality. What do you see from a kid when that happens? Obviously, he's not the only player out there, but he's kind of highlighted in that moment.
Yeah, you know, you just you go and pick him up and tell him next play. I mean, that's the part of being a corner. You know, when I coach NFL, there's guys making $15 million a year who still get beat. You know, and you got to bounce back. You got to play the next play. You got to be ready to go. Got to get your eyes right. You got to take the information from the play and why it went wrong, but you can't take the result with you. And that's what we told him there. And it's just an opportunity to bounce back. And he knows he got to have a great week of practice this week. And he knows he's going to have a bullseye on his back. And he's going to have to be able to defend the first couple of passes that Oklahoma State throws his way. And I think he's going to be ready for it. I'm excited to see.
How did you see him respond in that moment?
I thought he responded well.
Yeah.
He got up and kept challenging. I think guys that who get beat initially, you know, they played off and soft, and you know, but he tried to get up there and still continue to challenge and different things like that. And you know, that's what you want from a young guy, you know, who kind of took really of the season his first lumps.
Right.
You know, as a redshirt freshman, that was really the first time he really has hit adversity this season. You know, so you were really interested to see how he responds, because up to this point, everything was going, you know, pretty well for him in coverage. And so, you know, that's not the game you really want to see it, but that's where he faced his adversity. And it was good to see him bounce back, and it's good to see him this week and then today at practice, you know, go out and have a spirited practice.
Did you know he would? I mean, a young guy like that, did you know, okay, we can pick him up, he's got that in him, or did you have to see it to know it?
I think one of those things and with everybody, you got to see it to know it.
Sure.
You think you do, but, you know, you can't simulate those things in practice. You can't simulate that adversity, you know, like that in practice all the time. So it's good to kind of see, you know, what he's made of, you know, what type of grit he has, you know, to be able to bounce back on that stage. And like I said, things didn't go his way. He got attacked, and but it was good to see him kind of bounce back and have a proper attitude in it too, that he wasn't pouting or anything like that, or trying to hide or try to deflect. It was none of that. He took responsibility and then got back on the horse and tried to ride.
There were times in previous weeks where you had like 3 safeties and a cornerback or someone in the availability report. How much better is it to have something closer to a full complement of guys now as you head into this final stretch?
Yeah, it really helps. It helps because, you know, as always, for all of us, we won't play away. And so, you know, that's what you worry about more than anything. If somebody went down, what's kind of the next plan for you? But now it's good to have depth, like you said, to have Mason be able to go. You know, to have D-Dye back was really good for us, because I thought he's been having a heck of a season. So to have him out really hurt us, because he's a good player for us. So that's been good. And then, you know, get Saeed, get some depth back at corner too, ready to go. And plus that creates competition, which you always want. Also, you don't want guys relaxing and thinking they got something. You want guys behind them pushing them.
You talked last week about some of the young guys maybe starting to make a push to get some time on special teams. Can you talk about that path a little bit, where, you know, it's sort of practice to special teams, you do some good things on special teams, maybe you find some reps on defense?
Yeah, that's always the path really for a lot of guys is, you know, they start in practice and get a couple oohs and ahs in practice, and then the special team coach says, hey, let's throw him down on kickoff or punt return or something like that and start to make some plays. And all the while, you're continuing to rep them on defense. And we do special things at the end of practice, too, to continue to keep those guys involved in what the defensive game plan is. And then you got to get to a point where you just throw them in and just let them go to work. And so we got some guys who are close to that point, which is fun. I'm looking forward to see them play.
Anything else for Coach McDowell?